What if I told you that in just 15 kilometers Ferrari has shown something that could change the entire season, and that Mercedes didn't see coming? Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Because what happened in Fiorano was not a simple test, it was a direct warning. A completely new car, revolutionary regulation. And yet, Ferrari took to the track without errors, showing technology that other teams have not even wanted to show. The most worrying thing is not that SF26 works, it's how it works. Active aerodynamics, stability in complicated conditions, and such a solid foundation from day one that has made the paddock begin to look at Maranello in a different way. Are we facing the real return of Ferrari, or simply the biggest deception of the preseason? The beginning of this story is not on the track. It is in a silent decision that Ferrari made long before the SF26 touched the asphalt of Fiorano. While the rest of the teams were still fighting for every thousandth in 2025, in Maranello, they were already thinking about something much bigger. Ferrari decided to freeze the development of its previous car and redirect absolutely all its resources towards a single objective: master the most radical regulatory change in Formula One in decades. And this is where the key difference begins, because we are not talking about a progressive improvement, we're talking about a total conceptual leap, a car designed without ties, without compromises, without inheritances from a past. When SF26 finally appears in Fiorano on January 23, 2026, it does so under enormous pressure. It wasn't just a new Ferrari, it was the result of months of total commitment, of absolute risk, of a strategy that could return them to the top, or sink them even further. But what happens in those first kilometers begins to change the narrative. Because instead of doubts, what you see is a car that works. And this, in a completely new regulation, is something that very few can say from day one. The context changes everything. This is not just another car. It is the first car built under rules that completely transform Formula One. New aerodynamics, new power units, new batteries, even a different philosophy in how performance is generated. In this scenario, it would be normal to see problems, correlation failures, basic errors, but Ferrari does not show any of that in its initial shakedown. And that begins to generate an uncomfortable feeling in the rest of the teams. But there is an even more important detail that many overlooked at the time. Ferrari did not hide. He didn't hide his car. He didn't shoot secretly. He went out in front of everyone with the Tifosi present, with Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and Frederic Vasseur watching, and let the world see the SF26 in action. And this, in modern Formula One, is a very clear sign. When a team teaches so much from the beginning, it is because it trusts in what it has. And then comes the point that starts to change everything, the first real evidence of its technical concept. Because beyond completing laps without problems, the SF26 reveals something that until then was practically a mystery on the track: the operation of active aerodynamics. It is not a minor detail, it is the heart of the new regulation. And Ferrari not only has it, it shows it, it executes it, and it makes it work from the first moment. This is where the real tension with Mercedes begins. Because while Ferrari shows a key system already operational, the rest of the paddock is still trying to understand how to optimize it. And in a regulatory change of this caliber, whoever understands a concept first has an advantage. This is the starting point. A new car, a total commitment, a revolutionary system already visible, and a feeling that is beginning to spread through the paddock. Ferrari has not only arrived prepared, it could have arrived before everyone. As we start to delve deeper into what Ferrari actually showed at Fiorano, the story stops being just a promising presentation and starts to become a real threat to Mercedes. Because it is one thing for a car to work on its first day, but quite another is how it does it, and in which areas it is making a difference. The first data emerging from the SF26 reveal a very clear pattern. Ferrari has not built an extreme car, it has built an efficient car. And this completely changes the reading. Instead of looking for aggressive solutions that are difficult to control, the team has opted for a much more refined philosophy, focused on the stability of the aerodynamic flow and consistency in corners. This may seem like a minor technical detail, but it is actually a direct statement of intent. Ferrari doesn't want performance peaks, it wants sustained dominance. And this is where Mercedes starts to really be affected. Because historically, its strength has been precisely in the overall efficiency of the car, in its ability to maintain constant performance in different types of curves. But initial data indicates that the SF26 is reaching that level, and even surpassing it in medium and high-speed sectors. This is key because in Formula One, it is not just about being fast in a straight line or in qualifying. It is about how the car manages cornering, stability, and degradation throughout a complete lap. And Ferrari, from the get-go, is showing extremely solid performance in these areas. It is not a nervous car, it is not unpredictable, it's a car that transmits control. But the most impressive thing is not just the performance itself, it is the context in which it occurs. We're talking about a completely new car, under a totally different regulation, and yet Ferrari is already operating in a very high competitive range. This suggests something much deeper. The base concept of the SF26 is well designed from the start. And when a concept is born well, subsequent development becomes much more powerful. This is where the real danger for Mercedes begins to appear. Because if Ferrari is already at this level without having introduced major evolution packages, it means that it has real room to grow during the season. However, this act also reveals the other side of the coin, because not everything is perfect. That same quest for efficiency and stability means that Ferrari could be sacrificing other areas, especially in terms of top speed or aggressiveness in certain scenarios. And this introduces a key question. To what extent can this concept be adapted to all circuits? This contrast is what makes the situation so interesting. On the one hand, Ferrari has impressed with a solid foundation, a balanced car, and an early understanding of the regulations. But on the other hand, there are still gray areas where performance is not completely dominant. And it is precisely in that duality where Mercedes sees an opportunity, but also a problem. Because if Ferrari can close those small gaps, then it won't just be competing, it will be setting the pace. So at this point, the story changes completely. We are no longer talking about a one-off surprise at Fiorano. We are talking about a car that, from its foundation, has the potential to alter the balance of power in Formula One. And this is where everything explodes, because what Ferrari showed at Fiorano can no longer be hidden, and Mercedes knows it. What started as a simple contact has become a clear sign that the balance of power may be shifting right before your eyes, because when you put all the pieces together, the total commitment to the SF26, the absence of failures on its first run-in, the early understanding of active aerodynamics and solid cornering performance, what you have is not a good start, it is a foundation for a champion car. And that is precisely what is beginning to generate real concern within the paddock. The real problem for Mercedes is not what Ferrari is today, it is what it can become. Because if with just 15 kilometers the car already shows this level of consistency, that means that the room for improvement is enormous. And in Formula One, when a team starts from a correct base, each update does not correct errors, it amplifies advantages. This is where the narrative completely changes. Ferrari is no longer reacting to its rivals, it is leading the way. He has interpreted the regulations before everyone else. He has built a car that responds from day one, and most importantly, he has shown that his concept works in real conditions. And this forces Mercedes into an uncomfortable situation. Because now they not only have to develop their own car, they have to understand what Ferrari has done. And in such a complex regulation, copying or reacting late can cost months. Months that, in a season, can be definitive. But there is something even more important: pressure. Because Ferrari has not only impressed technically, it has sent a psychological message. He went out on the court, showed his cards, and made it clear that he is not improvising. And when a team transmits that confidence from the beginning, it completely changes the competitive dynamic. Now, the big question remains open. Is this enough to dominate the entire season? Because the history of Formula One has taught us something time and time again. Starting strong does not guarantee finishing on top. Ferrari has struck the first blow, yes, but now comes the most difficult part. Maintain that level, evolve without losing direction, and resist the inevitable reaction of teams like Mercedes. And this is where this first great chapter closes, with a clear but disturbing feeling. Ferrari has stopped being a promise, and is beginning to become a real threat. The conclusion of all this is as clear as it is disturbing. What Ferrari showed at Fiorano was not a coincidence. It was the result of meticulous preparation, a total commitment, and a reading of the regulations that, at least for now, seems to be one step ahead of the rest. Because when you analyze every detail from the decision to focus exclusively on the SF26 to the clean execution on its first run and the visible understanding of key systems like active aerodynamics, what is revealed is not just performance, it's control. Control over the concept, over the direction of development, and potentially over the start of the season. And that is exactly what has impacted Mercedes. It's not that Ferrari has simply been fast. It's that it has been coherent, solid, and above all, advanced in understanding a completely new regulation. And in Formula One, when a team achieves that before the others, the advantage is not always measured in tenths, it is measured in reaction time. But this story is not closed, far from it. Because if this sport has taught us anything, it is that every initial advantage provokes a response. Mercedes is not going to sit still. He is going to analyze, he's going to react, and he's going to try to close that gap as soon as possible. The real battle is just beginning now when the data multiplies, when the first evolutions arrive, and when each team begins to show its true level. So the conclusion is not only that Ferrari has surprised, it is that it has changed the narrative. He has gone from persecutor to possible reference, and the great unknown that remains in the air is the one that defines everything. Are we seeing the beginning of a new era for Ferrari, or simply the first movement of a technical war that Mercedes has not yet responded? Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.